guys' show.
Okay, we're ready. We're ready.
Do you need me to do any kind of intro, or you guys have it?
Well, I think they thought you were gonna.
I'm fine to.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. That's why I was just asking. If you want me to do an perfect. I was just saying, it's your guys' show. I'm great to do an intro, or I'm great to let you guys have it. Yeah, both sides. Line it up. This is for the youth. So no, they don't sit there. You guys.
We gotta face the crowd the whole time.
What? Yeah.
We gotta face the crowd the whole time.
Yeah. Come on up. Well, we figured enough of you were talking. That way there won't be too bad of transitions. So what's the first thing?
What's the first
There's
thing?
an agenda?
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean,
Awesome.
it's very rough. So I'm gonna get up and talk.
Okay.
And then open with prayer. I talk a little bit and then pray. And then the praise band's gonna go up and sing a song. Then we're gonna do a video.
Perfect.
And then we're gonna
Come on, Joanna.
consult me here. Dana will start, and we're just gonna pass the mic down, and everybody speak who wants to speak.
That's great.
And then I'll come in and do the closing and talk about some things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And then I will pray, and then we'll sing the last song with the congregation.
When's the first song?
First song is right after.
move this? Yeah. All right. Look at Nathan. Is that all you? You're there? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming and braving the rain to get here. So we will keep an ear out. I think most of the stuff's moved off at this point, but thrilled to hear from this team. Just excited to have them all, and they're gonna share what they've done, and also we'll get to enjoy, as the praise team led over there, they're gonna lead here and let us enjoy what they shared there. So just thanks for coming, and really enjoy getting to hear what God did and just being part of all this. So I'm gonna give it to Justin.
So I want to start with acknowledging people that helped make this trip possible. I'm not going to name names because, one, I would forget to name somebody that needed to be named, but nobody did it for recognition anyway. And also it would take a long time because it took a ton of people to help pull this off, and we appreciate every one of you. From concept to fruition, this has been an incredible experience to see how this church come together in so many ways to make this trip happen. From fundraising to cleanup to prayer and just every aspect of it, giving. I'll be honest, when I first started discussing this with David Showalter, and he said his main goal was for us to go into the schools and practice conversational English. I was wondering how much eternal impact we were really going to have doing that. And to be honest, after we got there, it's just so much more than that. That was just a tool that really got us in the door and touched a lot of lives. I hope that hearing everybody talk about this trip tonight helps to paint you a picture of what the impact really had. Where's the picture there. So just like this picture of the Alps doesn't do it justice when you're there live, the stories tonight will not paint you. It's not like being there. It's a picture, and it helps you kind of get a taste of it, but it's nothing like being there. To be there and to see those kids and to look in their eyes and interact with them, that's really where it was at. But hopefully you can get a little taste tonight as we share. Before we get started with that, let's open in prayer. Lord, we just want to come to you tonight and thank you for your provision. Thank you for this group and pulling them together and all the support we got from the church to go on this trip. Thank you, Lord, for providing everything we needed. And thank you for paving the way as we traveled. Travel was very smooth, and just the whole trip was such a huge blessing. We thank you for that, Lord, and we thank you for those that have come tonight to hear about this. And just pray and you'll guide these kids and adults as we share what happened there, that you will help us to speak and to share how you truly touched us while we were there. In Christ's name, amen. The praise band is going to share one of the songs they performed while we were at the church service there in Italy.
Everybody in Sesto Calinde knew when the 27 Americans hit town, and we walked everywhere together in a group of 27. They thought we came to town to teach conversational English, but we were there to deepen our connection, our relationship with the Showalters, and our connection between their church and Sager Creek. We were there to make connections with the students so that we could have deep conversations with them outside of school. And we were there for the high school students to see the work of the Showalters and what missionaries do in real life. In the country of Italy, 80% of people profess to be Catholic, but only 15 to 20% of them attend church regularly, and most of them are elderly. Islam is the fastest growing religion in Italy, and 60% of them are in the area of Sesto Calinde. And they're even thinking about building a mosque there. So the Showalters have a lot of work ahead of them. We encountered all of those different things as we came in contact with people. Some of the ladies in our group were practicing English with some women, and Janet told me later that the lady I had a conversation with was an atheist. Many of the children in the elementary and middle school were Muslims, but the good thing about it is because we invited them to the activities, many of them came to those, and they came on the last day when we had the taco lunch, and they got to hear testimonies of 3 of the people that went on this trip. So pray for the Showalters, and pray for the beautiful lost people that you saw in that video. Janice Showalter told me 2 days ago that an older couple had been coming to their church but hadn't been in a while, but their grandson, who was in 8th grade, he was in a classroom that one of our groups worked with all 5 days. And he and his sister, who's in 6th grade, have asked the grandparents to bring them to church. So the grandparents are back in church too, and they've been there every Sunday since we left.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Spencer. A lot of you know me as Music Kyle's wife. What you might not know about me is that I grew up a missionary kid my whole life, from when I was 1 year old all the way through graduating. So this was kind of just a really neat time for me to get to be re-involved in the world of ministry internationally. Ever since having my 2 little active boys, I haven't really had as much opportunity to go and serve overseas, and so this was just such a blessing for me and my family. One of the things that was really neat, though, was that despite there were several people in our group, since we have so many, who had international experience, who had been on short-term mission trips or even long. Students hadn't gone on a mission trip before. This was their first time overseas. There was a picture actually with 4 of the people kind of holding up a finger saying, like, this is our first time overseas, or first time on a plane in general. But the incredible thing was just watching the blessing that all of these guys were, the sponsors and the students alike. No matter how introverted or extroverted they were open to what God had for them to do on this trip, and they each played such an important role that God had selected them for on this trip. So I'm going to read some of the things just so I don't forget, but I mean, small things that normally, wouldn't seem like a big deal, but they spoke to the youth that we worked with. So just things like sweeping up after events, helping cut tomatoes, helping get the lunches ready, serving the lunches, helping with the technology in the classrooms, carrying supplies from one place to another, leading games, leading music. Some of them left notes for the students or connected with them. They're now friends on Instagram, or they're friends on Facebook, or they're in contact other ways. I saw students just voluntarily go up and normally introverted students, who wouldn't necessarily put themselves out there, they would get out there and they would have conversations with the Italian students and with each other. Everyone did a really good job of making sure that there was never anyone left alone. There was no one kind of, on the fringe or on the outside that wasn't brought in and included and welcomed in the things that we were doing. Even if it was just playing card games or making jokes. There's a lot of inside jokes from a trip like this, as you can imagine. I'm sure you'll get to hear about some of them. But God just used our youth, actually, in such a magnificent way. They were able to connect with the students in a way that we've all talked about as the sponsors. We were saying we just wouldn't have been able to have that impact, because the kids in Italy, we worked with elementary students and middle school students, so our high schoolers were older than all of them, so they definitely had that cool peer vibe of just looking up to them and being like, wow, one day, we want to be like that, or we want to get to know these people, or we want to be friends with them. And just that, it was very obvious. Italian culture is, up front, and you can always know what they're thinking. They'll tell you straight out, or they'll just stare. That was one of the things that we learned about, was that, you know, they're interested and they're not afraid to hide that. They're gonna stare at you, they're gonna wanna know more. And they were just like soaking up every second with our youth, with the conversations and with the lessons, kind of trying to feel them out. And they had such cool relationships by the end of just those 5 days of working with them. Like Dana said, there were a lot of Muslim students and a lot of atheist students. And at the beginning of the week, when we weren't allowed to talk with them about Christ in the schools, but we invited them to a taco night at the end of the week, at the church, actually. And so at the beginning, when I was asking students, you know, are you going to be able to come? Are you going to come to the taco night on Friday? A lot of them were saying, oh, no, because I have a different religion. Or, oh, no, because I don't do things, my family doesn't do things like that. But then on the actual day at the end, a ton of students, like a flood, a wave of them came walking up on their own. We saw them like through the windows of the church, like coming in mass from the schools to come to the event. And a lot of them were those same Muslim students that had told me, like, I won't be able to come because I have a different religion. So that was awesome to see. It was awesome to see how God used the relationships, the rapport, the just like fun times that the youth were able to share with the Italian students to draw them in and to get them interested. I bawled through all of the 3 testimonies, and that was, you know, just me having heard parts of it already. But the students were really latching onto every word that they were saying. Especially, we noticed, like, if a specific student had been in the classroom of the Italians, because we were all in different classrooms. Anyway, if they had some kind of connection with them, they were really attentive to everything that they were saying. And the youth did such a good job of talking about the difference that God makes in our lives. And how he had changed their lives. And you could see that there was just a curiosity there from the Italian students that hadn't been there before. They wouldn't have even been interested in hearing about any of that or setting foot in a church. But because of our youth and because of those relationships, they were hanging on to every word. So we're just praying that God will continue to use that, continue to bring more people into his kingdom. And I just wanted to give shout outs to this amazing group of students. So.
Okay, I'm gonna share a little bit about my experience, like with the difference of the elementary kids and the middle school kids. The elementary kids was a lot easier for me because I want to be an elementary teacher and I love elementary kids, and like I was the leader of one of the 2nd grade classes, and like just teaching them was like so easy, and like I enjoyed that so much. And I enjoyed the middle school, but the middle school was a lot harder for me. And I had to, like, learn how to talk to like, I help with crew, but, like, it was a lot harder to talk to them, to the middle schoolers. And so, throughout the week, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And throughout the week, God had to, like, keep reminding me, like, this isn't about you, Michaela. Like, it's not about you. And so, like, I was, like, stressed the whole week. Like, what do I have to do? And, like, all this stuff. And when it got to Friday, to the taco lunch, there were 4 girls, from my class that just stayed by my side the entire taco lunch, like did not leave. And 2 of them had to leave early, but 2 of them were with me outside on the balcony playing Uno. And we were there for the longest time. And I look up and everybody's gone. And I was like, oh, where did everybody go? So I go inside, and apparently they all went to the field, and I had no idea. We were there for like 20 minutes, and just us, and we were talking, and it was so fun. And then we walked over to the field and met everybody at the field, and we were just playing with them. And these girls like didn't want to play any of the sports, and I was all for that. And so we were like doing gymnastics and stuff like on the field while everybody else was playing games, and it was so fun. And we were just talking. And one of the girls, I didn't know this until like the end of the week, but one of the girls, her dad was one of the pastors at that church that we were helping. And I didn't know that till the end of the week. and she ended up being the last one I had there, and we just started talking, and she's told me, she was like, her friends didn't know that her dad was one of the pastors, and she didn't know like how to get her friends to come, and I was like, invite them to youth, like start off with that and build with that. And so like we had a really good talk, and I have like 7 kids' numbers, and they text me all the time. And I was telling her, and she said that she thinks her friend's gonna come to youth this week, which is on Saturday, and so she was really excited. So it was just like a lot of growing, and like this isn't about you, and yeah.
Hi. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the worship side of it, because I sang. So, but that all kind of started a lot before the actual trip. So Sharissa actually was in charge of that, and she did so well just getting us prepared. And we had to learn Italian for that, and that did not go amazing at first. I was terrified, to be honest. And honestly, that was the best I've done. I didn't even do that good at the real one, so. So that was all just like a huge like work in progress getting ready for that. And even when we got there, we were still like, we don't know how this is gonna go. We don't know how to speak Italian. These people do. And we were actually, that was the first thing we were doing. We were leading an Italian worship service, like with no sleep. How long were we? 36 hours of no sleep. We get there, we have like an hour to get ready, and then we're leading an Italian worship service. So we're like, well, we're just gonna pray and hope it goes well, you know? So as you can see in the pictures, me and Gideon were both like kind of asleep right before we were about to go on stage. And honestly, like I was just nervous because I was like, I felt so like not ready and like not prepared and just tired. And like I was like, the only way I'm gonna get through this is if God equips me and just like fills me with his strength to get through it. And I get up there and I just look around and I see on this side all of them, and then on this side all the Italians that I didn't know. And honestly, that was just like when the peace just came over me, and I was like, this is gonna be okay. And then we start singing, and like all of them are singing so loud they can't even hear me, so it's okay if I don't say the words right. And honestly, that was just one of the coolest moments of the whole trip for me, was that first day. And especially when in the song, we're gonna sing the song after, but we don't do the same thing, but it's fine. Where we sang in English, but then all the Italian people sang in Italian on the last verse. And just hearing all of like this community singing in English, and then all of their community singing in Italian, and we're all worshiping the same God, and just realizing that it's not about us, and that it's about him, and that all the unity that we can feel as a body, even though we don't even know them. So that was one of the coolest things. And I just remember feeling like, wow, like that was the most in awe I've ever felt in my life, and that was just so cool. And yeah, from that moment I was like, wow, this trip's gonna be amazing. So, and it was. So thank you guys all for all your support of sending us, and just all the prayers, because I know they were answered, and that God really provided for this trip. And even in just those little moments where all the stress was lifted away, or just we were given the strength even though we were tired. So that couldn't have come from us, so we just thank God for that.
Hi, I hate to follow that one. That was really good. But I just wanted to talk about the Showalters for a little bit. I know you guys know they've spoken here a lot about their stuff, but I just want to talk about how cool it was to see them in their place in working. They were just so kind. They were so it was very spirit-led, all the work they were doing, and not just like they weren't working just out of out of love and out of God's will. They were very competent, and they were handling a lot of things. And it was just very cool to see them at work. And in their community, they've been doing such good work for so long. Like even like working with Jana and seeing her amazing relationships she has with the teachers and administrators in the schools. That she's worked for years and years to build those relationships. And seeing David every day making us lunch, like making us pesto, like really good food, and just with a servant spirit, and just serving us as we were serving them. And that was just something really cool to see all the hard work they've spent in their community. And that was really, like, the work they're doing is not stuff you can do out of your flesh. It's not stuff you could do by themselves. Like, the work they're doing in Italy is God-filled, like God sent work, and it's really cool to be able to see them just really dedicate their lives to that. Yeah, here, I had one other thing I wanted to say. Sorry, I wrote some notes down. Oh yeah, and their kids even. I got to be pretty close with one of their kids, Sophia, and she was a little bit of a handful at times. They all know, but even just seeing how they handled their kids with grace, and they were doing amazing jobs, not even just as missionaries, not just as in their work, but as parents, and just leading their kids in Jesus too. And that was so cool to see, especially with their kids in the schools, working really hard to show Jesus' light. That was just so cool for me to see. And I just think it's really cool that you guys are supporting them and that our church supports them. And I think we should continue to do that because they're doing really good work.
Hello. I just want to, first of all, thank our church body, because your guys' investment in our youth and in missions and just really investment in all the kids. It's just really invaluable, and so we thank you just for supporting the youth and supporting missions. Like, this is a opportunity that not a lot of people get to do, and I don't think any of us have taken that for granted. Also, just your prayers. There were so many answered prayers. Like, it would take us hours to talk about how many answered prayers, and we actually didn't lose anybody, no matter what any of them say. I didn't lose anyone for very long. What'd you say?
Some people cry.
I only made one person cry. It was a dog-related accident. It wasn't my fault. I didn't kill the dog, I will say that. Just to clarify. The dog had just died, it was a whole thing. Okay, anyway. So I also think it was super neat to see the like-mindedness that our church has with their church. And ultimately, it's because of Christ and because of what Christ has done, and just to see that their church is so similar to our church, and that it's about the Word and growing in relationships with the Lord, and then relationships with each other. And there are not a lot of believers in Sesto Calende, not yet at least, because the work that the Showalters are doing, there's definitely going to be more believers soon. So it's really cool to see, and we value the relationship with them, and we know that they value the relationship with us. So we're thankful that we got to be part of it, and I know a lot of seeds were planted, and we don't get to see all the growth, but just the seeds in our own hearts and our own lives, and just to see God's goodness and faithfulness was really, really cool.
On our final night in Italy, we had an opportunity to gather as a group and debrief. You saw that there's one video clip there of our group singing the goodness of God, and that was at that final event, at that final debrief with just our team and the Showalters. And one moment that I really loved and appreciated was when David really gave a charge to our team, especially to the juniors and seniors, to really ask God what role each of them are going to have in taking the gospel to the nations. And he invited them to come back and serve with him as an intern. And I think some of them are praying about that and praying about that possibility. So I love that even though we had work to do this week, that David's mind and heart was also on really discipling our students in what it means to be able to take the gospel into all the nations. And to see David and Jana leading by example and what that looks like, I know is going to make a huge impact on all of our students as well.
On that last night, when we did the debriefing, there was a young man named Ben. I can't believe his name hasn't come up yet. I know it's going to in a little bit. Ben has been an intern, and now he's on staff with the Showalters. Oh, okay. Used to be an intern, yeah. Now full time. Anyway, Ben has a heart for the Lord. He just loves Jesus. He's 30 years old. He wants to pray with anybody who will let him pray with. He goes up. He waits for the Lord to tell him to go, and this person needs some prayer. He just goes up and just, if they'll say yes, he'll just pray with them. He just has a tremendous heart for the Lord. And so as we're debriefing and talking about stuff, and he starts sharing. And one of the things he shared was they've been praying for months for impact, for something to happen. And I don't know if it was when they heard we were coming or if he'd been praying before this time, but really praying for impact. So 27 Americans go to Italy and we are able to go into their classrooms with ease. We are able to be in elementary classrooms for 2 hours with the help of their teachers. We're bending over backwards to help. The kids were responsive in middle school and elementary school, and I just truly believe that the Lord just paved the way for that to happen, for the engagement, for our kids, teaching our kids how to engage with other kids they'd never met before. You got to get out of your comfort zone, especially for a lot of our kids who, kind of like me, are introverted and really don't do well as far as trying to meet new people, and they just were very comfortable in what they were doing. And being obedient is a big deal. And when you're waiting for the proper talents or whatever, that's not going to come. And it's not about, as McKaylee said, it's not about you and it's not about me, it's about the Lord. And he prepares you for exactly what you need to be doing. And that's what he did with these kids, he did with us, he prepared their teachers, he prepared us to get out of our comfort zone and share Jesus and share love. And when we couldn't share Jesus, that we loved well and pointed them back to Jesus without saying anything. So it was just an amazing time. I'm proud of our kids for really stepping up and being willing to share and hopefully learning more about owning their own faith and trusting what the Lord is going to do in their lives.
So I have kind of a quick personal story for me, but I had kind of traveled overseas before, so I wasn't necessarily nervous about the traveling part of it. So that went by pretty quick. But when we landed in Italy, when we got off the plane, it kind of hit me that we had to go into these schools where we knew nobody and didn't even speak their language. And in that moment, I kind of got this overwhelming like anxiousness and fearfulness. And it felt to the point that like it almost felt like I hadn't eaten in days, and it was just gnawing in my stomach. But we kind of got into the town we were in and settled in and whatnot. But the day we got into the middle school, when we were walking into the middle school, I remember my heart was basically beating out of my chest. I was so nervous about what I was going to say or do, and about maybe if I said something or did something that could have been like offensive in their culture. I was just really nervous about it all. And we got into the middle schools, into the classes and whatnot a little bit before all they did. And we were kind of just waiting up at the front, and all the kids flooded in, and it got worse. Like the gnawing in my stomach was going on, and my heart was beating. And the moment all the kids got in and the teacher got them organized, we sat down. And I just remember the first time, the first word that came out of my mouth, like everything in my body just stopped. And I just got this rush of peace. And that kind of propelled me throughout the week to be able to kind of connect with these people. And I just knew like in that moment that it was kind of the Lord working in me, because I had like a really big problem with fear. And I just knew that it was him working inside me and equipping me to do what he wanted me to do there.
So what I kind of want to talk about is like the fact that you just kind of look at a map sometimes and just like see it as a country. You don't see the people that are really there. And for me, that's kind of just how I saw it until I went over there and actually like started talking to the kids. And it kind of started off a little rough. Like the kids a little shy. They don't open up as much. But you know, I brought up something as simple as pineapple on pizza, which the Italians, they absolutely hate that. It's like a disgrace to them. Like, I got told I would get shot if I asked for that. So, yeah, I learned that. But just asking that simple question, they all opened up so much. And I realized they're just middle schoolers, just like these kids sitting right here. And it's not any different over there as it is here. And I think that was just really cool to see how that connection could be made so easily.
Okay, I would like to talk about some of my prayers that I had before going for the months leading up to it. One of my main prayers was that the Lord would show me some of the kids that necessarily weren't as excited for us to come. Maybe a little more shy, didn't know English as well as the others, because there was a lot of middle schoolers especially that knew English very well, and I was able to communicate with them. I don't know about y'all, but I'm really bad with languages, and it was really hard to talk to the ones that couldn't really speak English. But whenever I got there, the Lord showed me 2 girls specifically, one in the middle school and one in the elementary school. The one in the middle school, I could not barely talk to her, but I just had this feeling, this pull towards her, and I feel like she had a pull towards me. Because anytime we saw each other in class, outside of class, at the lunch, she was by me and I was by her. Even though we didn't get a lot, like weren't able to talk a ton with each other or communicate in the way I wish we could have, I still feel like there was a connection made there, and I hope a seed was somewhat planted. And then the elementary student, I could tell that not even really the students in her class she would talk to. She really didn't speak much English at all, if any. I don't think we actually had a full conversation without the teacher being in the middle of us trying to communicate back and forth. But I just had a pulling towards her that she really just needed someone there to believe in her and look at her, and I wanted to be there and just show her, like, hey, like, even though there's a lot of kids out here talking and, you know, saying funny jokes like 6'7" and stuff like that, I still see you and I still care about you. And I was so glad to be able to make those connections, even if I really struggled with it. The Lord really did answer that prayer for me.
Hello. I wrote a few things down. This trip had such an impact on me. Before I went, I was very anxious about it. I remember I talked to my mom a few months beforehand, and I remember talking about how I felt like I didn't have anything I could bring. For example, I'm the youngest in my family, so I don't really deal with kids a lot, and I'm not in the worship band, so there's no factor for that for me. When people first get to know me, I'm a pretty quiet person. So I was nervous holding conversations with kids I didn't know, so I prayed about it. I asked the Lord to help me do what I was supposed to do on this trip. Then when I made it to Italy, I prayed about helping me impact kids and asked the Lord to help me guide me when speaking to these kids. When going into the middle school, at first I was nervous, but when I sat down and started to talk to the kids, it felt like the worry and nervousness left me. Jesus helped me so much throughout this trip. I gained friendships with the middle schoolers. Most of them went to the taco lunch, which I was so happy about. I could feel Jesus was heavily around us. It was beautiful. I am continuing to keep in touch with these kids, hopefully to continue to lead them to God, even though I'm miles away. I am so thankful I had the opportunity to go on this trip.
Hi, my name is Natalie Burns, for those that don't know me. I'm going to talk about 2 of my favorite things, just things that we did in Italy. My first favorite was our worship band, and I loved getting to do that because as we were singing in the room and we were singing in their language in Italian, and then the Americans started singing in English, it just felt like God's presence was there, and it was really beautiful. And then the second thing I really enjoyed was just getting to spend time with the middle schoolers, not only inside of school, but outside of school at our time where we got to hang out with them, or at the taco lunch. And one of my favorite memories with them was we taught them Cotton Eye Joe and Church Clap, which they had no idea what those dances were, and so that was really fun. And then afterwards, we took a photo with them, and I hang that photo up on my prayer wall, and I think that's really cool.
Hi, my name is Melanie. I am one of the seniors that got to go on this trip, and I'm going to share 2 things. So Miss Roebuck kind of made it known that I kind of did it all. I'm on the worship band, and I was one of the people that was able to tell my testimony to these kids. And something about me is I don't like crying in front of people. I get really, I just don't like it. People, no, I just can't do that. And every time I share my testimony, I always end up crying. And I'm 6 foot, and I'm standing in front of all these kids who are sitting on the floor. And so that's kind of whoa, that's a big difference. And I'm sharing my testimony, and at first I'm not crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna cry, this is great. And then I do this little visual for them, and I just start bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, crap, I'm crying in front of all these kids, like, oh no. I was like, my kids are gonna ignore me, like they're not gonna talk to me after this. I just cried in front of them. I have never heard my name more in a day until that day. Afterwards, all my kids, like I heard my name so much. I heard Melanie, 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 like I was talking to some of my kids, and then all of a sudden a group of my other kids started coming up to me. I got invited to play soccer, but language barrier, didn't understand that, so I did not play soccer with them. That's my bad. But that was just really cool to see that, and especially like to be invited to even to play soccer. Like it's not common for girls to play soccer there. It's just not like girls. We were playing one day on that field, and I was the only girl playing on that field. Joanna joined me once, but yeah. And, you know, it was just funny because every time I would kick the ball or do something, they'd be like, bello, 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 you know, because it's just so crazy for them to see me do that. And then another thing I have to share is it was our first day there. So I can't remember, was it Sunday that we went to the birthday party? Okay. So it's Sunday, so technically the second day there, and me, Eli, and Jim Bob are hanging out with Lucas, the oldest son of the Showalters, and he was an hour and a half late to this kid's birthday party, and he invited Jim Bob, Eli, and I to go with, and like I heard there was gonna be soccer, so I went and played with, and was gonna play soccer. We get to their church there that the Catholics go to, and Lucas runs in, asks his friends if we can go. And we were allowed to go in, and so it's just Jim, Bob, Eli, and I with all these, you know, 12-year-old kids playing soccer, and it was really interesting to see that. And then everyone else kind of just came too, and we were playing basketball with these kids, and it was before we even met them. Like they didn't know who we were, and we were invited to this birthday party, and it was really cool to see the Lord working with that and having us starting this connection with these kids before we even went into the schools. And, you know, the next day we saw these kids, and, you know, they were so happy to see us. And I just think it was really awesome how God planned that out. And that, yeah.
Well, I was worried about mine going a little long, but my mom kind of said what I was going to, so, you know, it's going to be fine. Ben, I got the privilege to kind of spend the whole week with him. Obviously, none of y'all know him. Just think Jake and Matchell, but like 30. That's pretty much Ben. One of the like biggest things that Ben was showing me, I got a chance to talk to him a lot, was just like how there's always going to be a difference between what we want in life and what God has in store. And kind of to put his story kind of really shortly, he had already gone over a few times to Italy, and he was still kind of like on the fence, like, is this really what I want to do? And then suddenly one day it just kind of hit him, and he just kind of dropped everything in America, and he was like, I'm going to Italy, and like this is what I'm gonna do. And now he works for the Showalters, and it was just so cool to see like the just dependence that he had on God, and just kind of like, I think he really showed me like I'm always gonna have this plan that I want and how I want my life to go, and just the things that I want to do in life, but overall like I just need to be able to be content with what God has in store. And just seeing how he just, even though he didn't know it was going to happen, even though like he wasn't for sure of where this was going to lead him, like he knew that this was what God was calling him to. And just the confidence and the courage that takes was really eye-opening to me as well, just in the way that I continue to carry myself, about just realizing like God's plan, it's not always going to make sense to us, and it's not always going to be the easiest thing in the moment, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. I think that was just something really cool to see as I continue to get to know him, and I still stay in contact with him a little bit, and he's still just like Jakin, so yeah, it's great.
Hey, I got the chance to work with the first graders throughout the week, and one of the things that David Showalter said before we left was not to think about them as the mission, but to think about them as people. And I didn't really know what that meant, but like when we got there, like they were just like us, like except for the language barrier, obviously. But and in the first grade classroom, really all they knew was colors, and it was really hard to get past that, because like I would hold up a postcard and it'd be like red, and they'd be like red, and then I'd hold up like muddy, and they'd be like, huh? And so, but whenever they did know what I was talking about, they really, like they were extroverted, and they just opened up to me, and that is something that all people do, and it was just cool to see that like I do that, they do that, like we can make connections that way. And one of the things that was kind of funny to me was like we have our own like jokes like the 6-7 and the brain rot and all that stuff. And like you saw, like he was like doing the 6-7 with all those kids, and that was getting them to open up to us. And like we got to like afterwards take them to the taco lunch and like do all the extra things with them where we could talk about God and plant the seeds. And I just thought that was really cool. And yeah.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Jeremiah Pitts, and going into this whole mission trip thing, I was terrified because I was like, I've never gone international before. This is going to be fun. So, first plane ride was fantastic. I land in Italy, and I realize I don't know what my calling is for this whole thing. And I'm like, what's God going to lead me here? And as we came into the middle school for the first time, I was like, there's something for me to do here. And I ended up in this classroom, and there were these two kids that were just, they were so awesome. They knew English. They were constantly willing to open up. And I was like, I think it's them. But being as how my schedule was set up, I was moving a lot to different classrooms. So for the first 2 days, I was able to interact with these kids and build a relationship. But then I was gone from Thursday and Thursday and Wednesday. So Friday, I come back into this classroom, and it's just, they immediately recognize me. They're up to me, they're talking to me, they're telling me about how Wednesday was and all these things, and I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. And I invite them to the taco lunch again, and it's just seeing them both show up, and whenever we talked, it was awesome getting their numbers, and then leaving and hearing about them going to church, both of them having been atheists. I was like, that's awesome. The first step in something that truthfully I had no idea I was going to be a part of, and I was just sitting there like, what a blessing. So that's my story.
I'm Corinth Bolin, and one big thing for the trip for me was something that happened between me and one of the middle schoolers there. So when we walked in to the middle school, we went through the 7th grade room and we had the conversation. It was a little rocky for me on the first day, but we get to our second classroom and it's a bunch of 8th graders, and I do my first couple groups and we're doing okay. They know English a little more than the 7th graders, but when I get to my third group, there's this one kid who knows English perfectly. His name is Yanti, and I just start talking to him, and then, to be fair, he's pretty rough around the edges. He's cussing up a storm and stuff. It was quite the experience, meeting him for the first time and just seeing an 8th grader so flippant with their language, and then I got to stick with this 8th grade classroom for 4 days, and they had a field trip on the 5th. And over those 4 days, I got to connect with this kid. And a couple of the days we had game time at a field. And when I got there, he wasn't really around with a bunch of people. He was just kind of off by himself, maybe talking to a couple kids here and there. And so I just go up to him and I start talking to him because language barrier wasn't really that bad with him. And I just get to talk to him. I get to know him. And then on the way back from the second game time, we kind of we lagged behind a little. I can't remember why, but we were 2 of the last people walking back to the church. And I just get to talk to him some more. Then I ask him about his faith, and then he says that he does believe in God, but he doesn't really walk it out, and he doesn't have a Bible. He doesn't go to church. So when we get back to the church, I go in and I ask David Showalter for a Bible. And so we get one, and I go out and I give it to him, and he just his face almost lit up, and what he told me, I'll never forget it. He was just like, I feel like you just gave me God, man. And that was, something that really stuck with me. And, just being able to, kind of have that impact on him and be that light, just, encourage him in his walk. And I've been able to keep in touch with him. Time difference makes it a little weird, but he went to church with one of the kids he was connecting with, I believe the Sunday before and last Sunday, and so that was really cool. Yeah.
Wow, those were all really good, so I'll try not to be too long-winded. So one of the things that kind of stuck out most to me throughout this trip was just kind of the way God works isn't always how I would think it would be. So I've got a couple things I had in mind. One of the things that I was kind of like nervous about going into this was the language barrier. And I was like, I don't speak Italian. I don't know what I'm doing. Duolingo can't teach me very much. So I get there and I'm kind of stressing about it. I'm like, man, how am I going to connect with these people if I can't even like speak their language? And one of the first people I meet when we go to the church, I already screwed up his name while we were there. I think it's either Greg or Bob. It was Bob? Okay. So Bob. Yes, Bob. He was awesome. But anyways, so I was walking to the church and he opens the door for me. He's got this box of stuff. He's going in, I'm going in. But I think he's like some random Italian guy. So how you say hello is ciao. So I walk up to him, I'm like, ciao. And then he just kind of looks at me. Like, they know we're Americans. And so we walk in, and turns out he spoke English. So he was American. And but that was just one thing that kind of stuck with me. It was like the very first person I really met, I was stressing about the language barrier, and God's like, here, let me put this guy in your path, and you don't got to worry about it. And in reality, the language barrier was like, we were able to communicate pretty well. So really it was throughout the week, I just saw that worry kind of fade as we interacted more with these people. Because that wasn't really as big of a deal as I thought it would be, and God kind of paved the way there. But another interesting story as far as the way God works. So they've talked about the taco lunch kind of the last day where we got to invite everyone to the church, and a bunch of my class came, well, a couple of classes, but anyways. So they were all there, and it was really cool getting to hang out with them. But like Corinth said, David Showalter had a bunch of Bibles. And I would walk each of my students out as they were leaving, like, oh, my parents got to pick me up. I was like, okay, cool, let me walk you out. So every time I would try and like offer them a Bible, and he had like full Italian Bibles, like full Old and New Testament, and that's what I was trying to give them. And I was like, oh, this is going to be good for them. Like, this is the Bible, it's going to be great. And so I'd offer them, and some would be like, no, it's okay. And others would be like, oh, sure, I'll take one. So I got one of my students to take one, but he also had these like comic book Bibles, I guess. Don't really know how to describe them. That's the best I can come up with. But anyways, these kids saw them, and like they had been talking about like the books they like to read, because that was one of the things we talked about in class. And I tried to offer them these Bibles, and they were like, no, like, oh, it's kind of boring or whatever. And I was like, well, okay. But then they saw these like comic book Bibles, and their faces just lit up. And they were like, oh my goodness, that looks awesome. Can I have one of those? And it ended up being, I was able to give away 4 Bibles, and one of them was like a real Bible. And then 4 of them, math is hard. 3 of them ended up being these like comic book Bibles. And that really kind of stuck out to me, because I was just like, I hadn't even considered like using these. I was like, oh, that's, like, I don't know if they'll care about that or something like that. It was just kind of in the back of my mind. But then these kids actually sought out this Bible, and like they thought it was really cool. And I just told them, I was like, that's going to be the best comic book you ever read. So I just thought that was interesting, something that I hadn't even considered using. God actually, was able to give his word to more people than what I had anticipated. So yeah, just getting to see him work in ways that I hadn't thought about was really cool.
My name is Cole Ellis. I've been helping out with the youth for about 2 years now. Just want to start by saying Figlio Stopi and Geno. And anyways, Italian jokes aside, man, God is moving in Sesto Colinde. He's moving in this group, and he's moving in this church. No, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but just being able to see it firsthand and really, I don't know, have eyes on it was such an amazing thing. Just day after day, these guys and gals building relationships with the kids there, with the adults there, with the members of the church there. Just seeing that compound throughout the week and towards the end of the week, being able to look back and see everything that God has done through these kids. I mean, it was really cool. I wish you guys could have been there to see it. But I think they're going to carry it with them, from now on. I think the kids there are going to carry that with them as well. I don't know. I'm just really proud of them. They did a really good job. So, and also thank you guys for giving us everything we needed to be sent there too. So, really appreciate that.
Sorry, piggybacking off that, many of you know that we did an auction to raise money to be able to go on the mission trip. And one of the items that we auctioned was a prayer quilt that our quilting ministry from church made. Do we have any of our quilting ministry people here tonight? Hopefully, yay, good. That reminded me of what a huge blessing the church was through that quilt. So not only did some people bid and, give money for the quilt, but they actually gave it to Dana Ray to take with us on our mission trip and to present to the missionaries there. And so that was like a piece of you guys, because all those prayers with each one of those knots, we gave it to them one of the nights, and I remember Ben just talking about how amazing that moment was. He said, I cried. He's like, my eyes were just, so misty-eyed when you took that out, he said, and you unfurled it, and we got to see all the knots and know that people were praying for us, and we had been praying for so long for this big impact, and just he's like, I knew that the week was going to be amazing from that moment. He said God just flooded the room with his presence when they opened up the prayer quilt and presented it to the Showalters and gave it to them from our church. And so I just want to thank you who are in the quilting ministry for that. We also were able to take little scraps, leftover scraps from the quilting ministry to use in our ESL lessons. So the kids actually have little crafts and projects that contain little bits of that cloth in their homes. And I don't know, God is going to use that in such a big way, and they definitely felt his presence through all of your hard work and through the work of your hands. So thank you guys.
Now the cartoon Bibles were anime Bibles, and anime Jesus is really cool.
I missed something, I think. Okay. No, I know we're over time. If you need to leave, we won't be offended if you take off, but I'll try to be brief with my wrap up here. Okay, so there's some of these young people on the stage tonight that pass the mic because they're not comfortable speaking in front of the group, but I just want to give a shout out to them because they were amazing on the trip as well. They got in there like everybody else and made connections and made friends and were able to have good conversations, build relationships with these kids as well. I'm so proud of every one of these juniors and seniors. They made me proud. They should make this church proud and the parents proud. They represented very well. I could not have asked for a better group to go on this trip. We were able also to take $5,000 to the Showalters to help pay for their roof. this is what they needed to wrap that project up. So they were very blessed. They had already had to start, and this was what they needed to finish that up. So they wanted to express their gratitude for that monetary help. As a follow-up, sorry, that's already been covered. I would like to ask the church body to pray about the future for us to have wisdom. The greatest compliment you can get is to be invited back, and David has invited us back. Would love to have us to come back. So I just ask you to pray for the staff, the elders, and the mission committee for direction from God as we seek His will and His timing. I will pray, and then the praise team is going to lead a song to close us out. Feel free to leave. We understand we're way over time, but you can listen to it as you leave. Lord, we just want to thank you for this time. We want to thank you for everyone that cares about missions and in this church and has helped. We thank you for the prayers. We thank you for leading this group, and we just pray your guidance moving forward, how you would have us to do things in the future. Thank you for your love and your grace. In Christ's name.
You guys can also stand if you want to, and you can sing with us. You can try singing in Italian, or you can sing in English. Either way works.
Santo,
Thank you guys so much again. You guys are dismissed.